I'm here with Dominika Ksel, and we have a show scheduled for next year at Open Source Gallery. And we are just chatting about what's going on right now in our lives and how, you just told me that you got actually a fellowship with Culture Push. So tell me a little more about that.
So it's a fellowship for utopian practices, and my friend and creative partner Lee Favorite will be creating a virtual reality and augmented reality, and also holograms. That eventually the holograms will be something in person that we can experience, but everything is going to be an online platform about the history of the Chelsea Piers, kind of the erased history of the Chelsea Piers. We're going to be talking about the history from before the piers were built and before the lands were colonized until the 1990s, when LGBTQI youth were really taking over the piers, and it was one of the few safe spaces in New York. And just going into what the piers was as both a historical, artistic space and safe space. So we'll be kind of exploring that, doing VR, like 360 video, and then we're also going to be building an augmented reality audio walk that allows you to connect with the different points of the piers and give you like the history as told through the voices of, like, we're going to be using archives, and it's told through the voices of people from the past. So just to give you kind of an overlay of what is there now and what happened before, and who's, these stories that we haven't really been able to hear. So it's a pretty big endeavor. We were supposed to actually have it happening for June, but as we know, COVID got COVID got us, and we have to delay, but that gives us more time, so that's pretty great. So we're going to be working with students that are helping us kind of dig into these archives, and we'll be looking at Fierce Archive. We've been given access to like 6 different archives, so it's going to be a pretty interesting and exciting project.
Wow, yeah, and Culture Push is really great. I've worked with them, or like know them pretty well, and I think it's
that's awesome.
Supportive group of people, so I think that's going to be also a good way to go about a project that large. But that sounds super interesting. And then there's another project that I find also really cool that we talked about not too long about. That's actually a public art project, right?
The one with Rise in the Rockaways?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's actually up right now. And someone sent me 2 days ago, people made a dance party underneath the sculpture. So my other creative partner, Camila Morales, she's an architect, and the two of us kind of brainstormed, how do we use recycled material to create just beautiful works that are public, especially during this time of COVID. And we built an 8-foot by 6-foot sculptural piece that has sensors that trigger off audio, so it creates like this symphony. And I collected the biophony of the Jamaica Bay and the Rockaways. I collected I'm even going to call it biophony of protests, the biophony of people supporting the healthcare workers at 7 p.m. And then we have this soundscape that takes place. So if you walk into different parts of this underneath the sculpture, they start triggering off these soundscapes. And then also we use solar LEDs. So at night, the entire sculpture also kind of comes to life like a jellyfish. And everything was made of plastic bottles that we collected in Rockaway Beach through the entire summer. My house literally looked like a recycling den. It was kind of insane because it was thousands and thousands of bottles. And we also had to spend a lot of time cleaning the bottles, which made us really think about that it's not just the bottles, but all the other parts of the bottles that, the plastic wrap, the glue, and all that goes into it, into producing this sort of waste. And so we also, it's COVID, so we had to do a lot of sterilization, which was another like massive process, but it was great. We worked with the students at Rise during the summer. a lot of them, again, couldn't leave their houses, but they also collected biophony outside of their windows and learned to create soundscapes. So I included a couple of the sounds from the students inside of the piece. So it really became this larger, more extended project. So when people came to see it, they knew that they had donated some bottles, they had collected some bottles, they, brought some sound in. So it's been a really great process.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think it's so difficult right now during COVID to do actually an interactive piece like this, and it's it's pretty awesome that it's working and that there's really this feeling for the audience that they are part of it, right?
Yeah,
I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and it was really great because we were there. Sometimes we would just come at night to take some photos or take a look at things and see is our installation still up, because the winds in the Rockaways are also pretty intense. So we were worried that maybe it'll just blow away. We don't know. And so we were just watching people come through, and then they had such beautiful responses and they were so happy to have a piece. They said, they were like, do you know what this is? And do you know who made this? And we were like, we made it. And they were like, can you tell me about it? Like, this is just great to see, things come to life in this unused space because it's underneath the elevated train. And so, normally this area is just trash. There's nothing there, but people do use it as a walkway, especially if it's raining.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to see, Rise is putting in a lot of work into bringing this space and activating the space. And it's nice to see, people are actually using it. And then when they sent me this dance party, I was like, this is awesome. Like I couldn't believe people are just having a daytime dance party underneath the elevated, underneath our sculpture. So it really made me happy.
I really have to go see that. That's such a, great excuse for me to get out of here to the Rockaways. So I definitely have no excuse. So yeah. So what else are you working on? You've different.
So yeah, I'm working on another project with a class I'm teaching. It's a bit of an experimental class on urban climate justice. Mm-hmm. And so again, I couldn't ask students to go out and do any shooting. So I worked with a camera person this summer and early fall, and we collected interviews and tons of footage. And the students are creating, with my help and also with the help of Lee Favorite, a video game that's based on urban climate justice, that's recreating Jamaica Bay, but creating this kind of imagined city. That's a city space, I should say, that forges the bay and the city, and using a lot of sound to then create architectures out of the trash that's also all over the bay, and to form these kind of architectural structures that then also form musical compositions. And we also did a lot of Zoom interviews, interviewing people that were journalists that work in social justice. We interviewed people that were involved with the People's Climate March, people from Surfrider Foundation, from the Parks Department, and to kind of talk about how to reimagine these urban spaces and think about the future use of them and what that would look like. So ideally, the projects are all really like kind of looking at, yes, we have these injustices, we have these problems, but we're also thinking about solutions and what would we like to dream of in the future, and what would we like these spaces to become. So they're also creating 360 videos that are based upon this. So I've been pretty busy with that project. And then
involved actually. And how many students are involved in that?
I'm sorry?
How many students are involved in this?
14 students.
Oh, that's a whole bunch.
Yeah. So, and there's always technical issues, because if you're dealing with like game design and like massive video files, so it's been a process, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. So it's been kind of beautiful to see. And it's also interesting because I'm not working with art students. I'm working with a lot of students that are software engineers, and working in a gaming department at City Tech CUNY. So that's been also, for me, it's been a challenge because it's a very different kind of mode of process and creation.
Right, I know. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's really interesting when there's kids from, for when you ask the questions in like different in a different way than they have been asked the questions most of the time. How can we solve the problem, right? But we as artists, I think we just think about it like we start the thought in a different, maybe on a different point, right? And then that kind of throws them off here and there. But I think it's a very interesting approach. So there is one more thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly, and that is I have actually this wonderful piece right here that Dominika also donated to our fundraiser, and I think it's really pretty awesome. You wanna actually tell us really quickly?
Yeah, definitely. So I was thinking one thing that I've been doing a lot of is collecting especially during COVID, collecting a lot of items off the beaches. And there's a amazing space called Dead Horse Bay, and I found these medicine bottles that were from the turn of the century. This is one of them. And I was just thinking a lot about, what's going on within our social justice system, what's going on with Black Lives Matters, and how as a white person, I can be not just accountable, but also just think about like how I can help to communicate to other white people what's going on, how to speak about these injustices. This is a conversation I have with my family. This is a conversation I have with people weekly. And I was thinking a lot about the complicity and the complacency and how they merge together, and the violence that our complacency really does. I think the complacency of not doing something in a situation like we're in is complicit, and it is a form of violence. And I just thought a lot about this metaphor of like magic bullets, and about the level of violence, gun violence that is put upon people of color in this country by the police, and other, not just the police, but there are just other people with racist ideologies and guns and what's going on. So I put this piece together, and inside of the bottle you have two people like lying in bed, relaxed. So it's not just, and I don't know if you can really see it in the photo, you have to kind of look at it, but the piece is really, just kind of, I don't know, I couldn't stop toiling over all of these things. And then I just thought about how I could put it together through these different metaphors, through these different objects, and bring together this kind of conversation about what's happening, and also about how we can, I think through art, it's a great way to kind of deal with these issues and find ways to create some sense of resolution, at least within myself, even though it's not resolving this larger issue. But I don't think often words kind of carry the message strong enough, and sometimes it needs to be creating these objects and bringing things together to talk about these issues at hand.
I completely agree. I think it's a wonderful piece. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Monika, and good luck with everything at Open Source.